Living in the States, my Jeep was pretty much my whole life. Without my car, I'm not doing anything.
For me, it was the old Ford Contour.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
1995.
95 Contour. Watch out, ladies.
Because cars are your life if you live in the States. You literally need them to go everywhere and anywhere unless you live in New York or Chicago. But in Germany, it's all about the bike.
The bike is the king, the queen, the everything.
You need it for everything in daily life, and we're going to tell you about it more. Stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm Geoff.
And I'm Alex. And we're two Americans who've been living in Germany for over 10 years.
12 years for me, but you know.
Who's counting? And we're going to share our experiences about living in Germany with all of you as two Americans. Whether you're an immigrant, an expat, whatever in between, we're here to help, or maybe not help. It's up to you what you take from this information.
But guys, first, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you can, buy the like button, a bottle of Yellow Rose. You know, he's just trying to do his job day in, day out. He needs a little release at the end of the day.
Like button works hard.
Just help him out.
Hard worker.
Yeah.
And also check out our Instagram and our website, AGDW channel. Links are down below. All that good YouTube stuff that everyone says.
Yeah, forget it. Let's get to the real stuff, which is we're talking about cycling in Germany, riding your bike in Germany. Growing up in the US, I mean, you probably did it. Like we all rode bikes with our friends. Like I used to have like a little loop that we would do after middle school, riding our bike in my little town that we grew up in.
You grew up in the suburbs as well, right?
I mean, but like a tiny, it was like less than 10,000 people kind of a place.
Yeah. And the suburbs, you know, it was always around the neighborhood. And then when I was maybe 14, I was able to leave the neighborhood and go like into town. And that's when I felt like I had my freedom because didn't have a car and a bike was the only way to get around without, you know, mommy and daddy dropping me off and looking like a nerd.
Exactly. We actually called it towning it. However lame that was. So we called it towning it.
I like that.
But once you turn 16, honestly, I don't even remember what happened to my bike because you get your car and that's all you're ever using from then on. And then when you grow up, and again, some people who do ride their bikes to work in the US will get a little annoyed, but I would say 98% of the time, if you live in the US and you do ride a bike as an adult, it's more like it's for fun, for exercise.
Right. It's like a leisure sport.
Yeah, like you're specifically on Saturday, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go ride my bike for 2 hours. You put your helmet on, you got your gear, you ride your bike, you come back. It's not to really go A to B or to do errands or that sort of thing because the infrastructure is just not there in the US. You know?
Right, exactly. The one thing you should never do, and please never do, is drink and drive your bike or your car.
No.
But we're not drinking, so, well, we're not driving. But do you want to drink?
We should drink.
Let's drink.
That's better.
Cheers.
Cheers. But speaking of drinking, if you get pulled over for drinking and driving on your bike in Germany, it actually goes against a point on your license. So you're in Germany, driving your bike, riding your bike, driving your car, they're interlinked. Like that's how
you're on wheels. I think it also extends to skateboards and stuff too.
Yeah. So they consider everything just as important, and I think that kind of shows a big difference between the importance of cycling in Germany versus the US. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Because here it's your daily life. You're using your bike every day if you live in a city.
And a lot of people, they use it, you know, go to point A to point B, grocery shopping, to pick up, you pick up lots of wood for your woodworking projects.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'll strap 2x4s to my bike.
Insane.
You'd be surprised how, I mean, you do a huge shop of like 3 different bags at the grocery store. Those go onto my bike and my bike bags. When you're meeting, every time I meet with you or whoever down at the movie theater or at the bar, like I'm taking my bike, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you can take it everywhere. And luckily, you know, a lot of people do cycle here, so it's not seen as like a weird thing. And infrastructure here is fairly good. You know, I don't think if you're coming to Germany, you should expect an Amsterdam type biking situation, but it is very
compared
very
to
good.
the US, the infrastructure here is
fantastic,
amazing. I mean, you'll go out in the middle of nowhere in a village and you'll see a bike path that looks like it was paved the day before, you know, like beautiful and smooth. And you picked up on a good thing, which is the mentality. Whereas in the US, if you're on Tinder or whatever, trying to pick up a girl and you mentioned you don't have a car, you don't have a bike, she's never messaging you again. But here, if you go on a date, it's completely normal that you'll both show up on your bike. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with being 30, being 80 years old, riding your bike to go everywhere. And the big difference is again, in the US cities, the way that they're built and designed, you need them. In Germany, in Berlin, and Munich, and Hamburg, there's such an extensive system of bike paths, of subway stations, of tram stations, etc. It's actually more annoying to own a car because you'll actually get places faster without having to do the 20 minutes looking for a parking spot and all that kind of stuff. And that's why everybody cycles here, especially when the weather's nice. I mean, there's no reason not to.
It really isn't. And we think about it too. If you're driving a car in Berlin, for example, parking is almost impossible. It's so hard to find a parking spot. But on a bike, it's only, about that way.
Like on a bike, yeah, you can bring your bike literally to the front door of the building you're going into, just grab a pole, lock up. Now, of course, in big cities like Berlin, bike theft is a big deal. So you always make sure you have a proper, strong U-lock.
Yes.
And people love those kryptonites, those New York. Forget about it. Locks.
Forget about.
They're like $200, they're like $200 or $300, but
well, that's the thing. You might be spending anywhere between 80 and like 300 for a bike, unless you want to get like a really ridiculously nice bike. But you can get a decent bike for like 50 to 80 euro, no problem.
It's probably stolen, but yeah.
It's mostly
Berlin.
Stolen.
Yeah. I mean, but you should be spending, I would say, $150, $200 for a decent bike, a decent used bike.
From a reputable bike shop.
Yeah. Your bike is super important to you. So when you have a flat tire or when you have a problem with your bike, it's like a huge pain in the ass, right? Where you're like,
totally.
Now for the next 3 days I'm on my bike when I give it to the shop to get it fixed. And, it's a big deal.
But in the summer, it's just a convenient way, especially when our light fell. We're gonna fix that real quick.
Fix that. I think what you were trying to say when the light fell was that the infrastructure and bike paths in Germany are so much better than in the US. And that's one of the reasons why people use bikes all the time.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the bike lanes here are they're either on the road or on the sidewalk. But when on the sidewalk, you really have to watch out, especially if you're a tourist here, because the bike lanes on the sidewalks are red, and the sidewalk is usually like a gray, whatever stone color.
It depends, though. In some places, the bike lane is also gray, so it depends
True.
where you are. But the cool thing,
it's really easy. It's super duper easy.
It sounds stupid, but having the bike paths on the sidewalk, it makes the cycling so much safer because now you're not in traffic with the cars. But yeah, I've seen the problem a lot with especially American tourists who just aren't used to bike paths in general, and definitely not used to the bike paths on the sidewalk where they're looking around at their maps and you're looking for the museum or whatever. And
it's like the people who get off of the subway and they just stand there looking at a map
in the middle of a bike path, and suddenly like 5 people go vroom, ding 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 ding, fucking Fahrradweg, bike path.
People they'll get it. I mean, I think reasonably so. They'll get pretty aggressive at you if you're standing in the bike lane. Yeah. Like imagine you standing in the middle of a car lane. People are gonna get pretty pissed off. Yeah. I think.
But I did have one time. I broke my arm. I was cycling down an area, Potsdamer Platz, which is a very highly trafficked touristy area, which I don't know. I couldn't explain to you why, because there's not really much worth seeing there. I guess it's impressive in some way.
I don't know why either.
But there's always a bunch of tourists there, and there was a big group of people, but everybody was on either side of the bike path. So I slowed way down, ringing my bell every few seconds, just ding ding, reminding people, going fairly slow. And then this one tourist with his AirPods on, not paying attention, walked right in front of me. I hit him a little bit, flew off my bike about 6 feet, of course, put my arm out to brace myself, just like a natural reaction, and just shattered my elbow.
Fun.
Yeah.
Good times.
Fun time. So it can happen.
I just got a bell on my bike last summer.
Okay, first of all, he did bad. He should have had a bell on his bike for the past 10 years.
I really had a good time, to be honest, just yelling at people when they're in the way.
But the problem with yelling is you kind of just look around and for a few seconds, the person doesn't know who's yelling or why.
Yeah, I know.
Whereas a bell, you clearly know, okay, that's
I'm not a yelly person. Sometimes it's fun
so it's fun. You want to yell.
Just like yell once in a while.
Okay.
Maybe it's mean.
And there's even separate turn lanes for the bike.
Yeah.
And there are actually, I'd like to say like half of intersections have separate traffic lights for the bikes.
Also true.
Like little miniature green, yellow, red. So it's just great infrastructure, and it's super safe, and it makes getting from A to B very quick.
And it's also nice too, like when you get out of the city in the villages, they have some really, really beautiful bike lanes. Like they're wide because there's not as much traffic
just
either.
Smooth
and
as
they're just
a baby's bottom, man.
Butter. It's butter. It's riding on a baby's butt smothered in butter.
I say when I was younger.
I hate that analogy.
When I was younger, I used to say smooth as a baby's bottom in the summer. And it's like, why in the summer? I was like, because it's hot. So the smooth butt's now sweaty. And so it's even, it's even slicker.
So, number one, have a bell on your bike.
Number two, follow the specific bike traffic lights, because if you watch in those situations, the traffic lights for the lights will switch at different times. So you might end up getting yourself in trouble if you are following the car traffic lights and not the bike traffic lights. It might not end too fun for you.
And I think a hard number three, you are a bike, therefore you are a vehicle, which means you do follow the laws of the red, green lights. A lot of bikers in the city, which really makes me...
Especially tourists.
It's a red light, but there's no cars coming, so you just go, even though cars can't go.
You'll get a ticket. You'll get a ticket,
and also just like, you're just giving a bad name to bikers, and you're making drivers more aggressive to bikers because you're being a dick.
Yeah, and I would say two don'ts. Stay off the sidewalks. The sidewalks are for pedestrians. They are not for cycling.
Or for children who are under 14 years old. That's all.
A 12-year-old can also do it? I thought it was under... Oh, okay.
It's a 12.
Now,
under a certain age, under puberty.
Yeah. The reason you'll see this in Germany is because Germany, like a lot of European cities, has not every street, but a lot of streets have cobblestone. And some bicyclists don't like to ride on the cobblestone because it's a little bumpy, whatever, so they'll ride on the smooth sidewalks. But it's super dangerous because there's people popping out of the front doors of their apartment buildings and they're not looking for a bike because they shouldn't be, because it's not a bike path.
Yeah.
And you nearly get hit. So stay off the sidewalks. And I think the second one, I think you know what I'm going to say.
I do know what you're going to say. You're going to say, don't eat a cheeseburger while riding your bike, because then your hands are full and greasy and you might slip off the rails. That's what you're going to say. That's a big one, right?
That, and also, don't ride the wrong way on a bike path. Just like cars, there's one way to go. And there's some situations where you're like, okay, it's such a pain. I got to cross. So you're like, okay, I got to go the wrong way on a bike path for, say, 20 meters. If you do go the wrong way, just if there is somebody coming the right way, you get out of the way of them.
Yes.
They do not get out of the way of you because you're the one doing the bad thing. Because I sometimes will go the wrong way, but I'll always immediately bounce off the road if I see somebody doing the right thing, coming down the right way.
100%. 100%. That's a big, I've gotten really German with this. If I see people on the sidewalk riding the wrong way, I get very German. I don't yell, but like I get really passive aggressive in my looks.
I think that's a good place to wrap things up about cycling.
That's cycling, man. Encourage it. Like, cycling is great. Even if you're in the States, try to get your local government to make some infrastructure. Like, make cycling a bigger thing.
Yeah.
Car dependence is too much. We should all be cycling more. It's healthy, it's fun, and like, you get to buy a really cool looking bike.
Yeah, and since you're doing it anyways to go from A to B, it's exercise that requires no extra work. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing it anyways to go meet up with that cute girl from Tinder. And meanwhile, you're burning a little calories, so, you know.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Win.
So, yeah?
This whiskey, 2 thumbs up.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Yellow Rose, baby.
Was it Yellow Rose? Good.
Cheers.
Cheers. And, like always, everyone, please stay safe.
Stay healthy.
And stay thirsty.
Should cheers at the end. That'd make more sense, but let's do it again.
I give a really nerdy thumbs up there. Hate it.